There is magic in thinking big, but it's so easy to forget. When that "I haven't got what it takes" feeling creeps up on you, think big. Remember, if you think you are inadequate, you are. Concentrate on your assets. Know your positive self. Think big enough to see how good you really are.
David Schwartz, author and professor at Georgia State University, is a national authority on motivation. He has spoken to thousands at conventions and management seminars over the past 30 years. For the next hour, David Schwartz will be sharing with you a range of techniques for magnifying your thinking power. Thinking big, the idea that you are cut out to be and do the best, is the key to success in anything. Belief in great results is the driving force behind all great plays, scientific discoveries, loving and lasting relationships. It's behind every successful business, church, and political organization. That's because belief, strong belief, actually triggers the mind to find the ways, the means, the how-to get things done. On this Sound Ideas cassette by Simon & Schuster, you'll discover that the magic of thinking big involves some very down-to-earth techniques. On side 1, you'll learn how to spot and cure the small thinker's biggest problem, excuse-itis. You'll find out why the power of belief is so important to thinking big. And David Schwartz will show you how to make your attitudes your allies in developing confidence. On side 2, you will be introduced to the big thinker's vocabulary. You will find out how to store valuable ideas so you can turn them into something big. And David Schwartz will help you set goals to get you started on short-term progress toward a long-term investment in yourself. Your personal training program for success will be built on the attitudes and techniques of big thinkers. How do they think? How do they come up with new ideas? You'll learn the key to creative thinking, and you'll find out how to put all of this to use in overcoming life's setbacks. This program is guided by a series of concrete examples, and there are exercises for you to try over the next hour. But remember, your training is self-administered. This cassette is a guide. The rest is up to you. Here's David Schwartz.
When it comes to thinking big, you have to make your attitudes your allies. Where success is concerned, people are not measured in inches or pounds or college degrees or family background. People are measured by the size of their thinking. How big do we think determines the size of our accomplishments. Now, all of us want to enlarge our thinking. Let's see how.
Ever ask yourself, what is my biggest weakness? David Schwartz believes the greatest human weakness of all is self-depreciation, selling yourself short. And self-depreciation shows through in countless ways. You see an ad in the newspaper for just the job you'd like to have, but you don't apply. You think, I'm not good enough for that job, so why bother? You've got your eye on a new manager in your office, but you don't even ask for a date because you think you don't rate. You've just come up with a really innovative product, a new kind of software, or a better chocolate chip cookie, but you don't go to the very company that could get it on the market for you because you think that company is too big time for you and your invention. Self-depreciation shows itself in lots of little ways. You ask for a smaller raise than you'd really like, or you brush it off when no one notices that the much-praised reorganization of the office files was your idea. Even in the smallest ways, you can sell yourself short.
Philosophers for thousands of years have issued good advice. Know thyself. But most people, it seems, interpret this suggestion to mean know only thy negative self. Now, it's well to know our inabilities. But if we only know our negative characteristics, we're in a mess. Our value is small. Here's an exercise to help you measure your true size.
This exercise, which has worked in hundreds of executive training sessions, begins with you determining your 5 chief assets. These assets can be anything about yourself that you know are worth something. A college degree, perhaps, or your reputation for having a way with kids. Or maybe you're one of those people who's always calm under pressure. Or you can make a decision and stick with it. Anything, really, that amounts to one of your good points. Invite someone you know, and whom you respect, to help you with the list. It could be a coworker, or your spouse, or a fellow student or professor. Someone, by the way, who will be honest and give you a straight answer. Now, under each one of your chief assets, write the name of 3 people who have made it big in your eyes, but who do not have that particular asset.
Complete this exercise, and you'll discover you outrank many successful people on at least one asset. There is only one conclusion you can honestly reach. You're bigger and better than you think. So, fit your thinking to your true size. Never, absolutely never, sell yourself short.
Seems like everyone I work with is much older than I am, and it's really hard for me to get any respect from them. And so when I set a goal for myself, I have the feeling that I'm never going to accomplish it because everyone's looking at me and saying, oh, she's such a baby, she can't really do this. And they think I'm too young. It makes me think I'm too young. And maybe I am too young to do it.
Truth is, I've always dreamed about being a stockbroker, something exciting like that, dealing with a lot of money. And I think I have the mind for it. But the only problem is I don't think I have the stomach for it. I mean, my nerves aren't very good anyway. And the least thing upsets my stomach. So I just don't think I'd last in something like that.
I mean, I'd like to go into the music field. I really always liked music, but it's hard. I've been out of school for so many years. I'm old. I'm 31. Everybody in school is 17, 18. And to get into a music school, you have to try out. They have to see whether you're a good enough musician or not. You know, what if I'm no good?
Perhaps the easiest way to differentiate a big thinker from a small thinker is how they deal with the problems of life. All the small people I know consistently suffer from a disease called excuse-itis. They make all kinds of excuses to explain why they can't do something, why something won't work, why we shouldn't even try.
Excuse-itis comes in many forms, but there are several common and particularly virulent strains of the disease. One of the main ones is intelligence excuse-itis.
I'm not quite smart enough to handle this situation. I'm not quite smart enough or intelligent enough to call on this prospect. I'm not quite smart enough to apply for this job. I'm not quite smart enough to conduct this meeting. I'm not quite smart enough to make more money. Now, if you're listening to this tape with someone else, do me a favor. Take a good look at that person and think this. That person is only half as smart as you've been conditioned to think. You know, my friends, we make 2 mistakes about intelligence. One, we grossly overestimate the other person. And second, we grossly underestimate ourselves.
Then there's age excuse-itis. You've heard it, and you've probably used it at one time or another. People are inclined to think they're either too old or too young. But look at it realistically. Apple Computer was started by 2 young men barely out of college who capitalized on a good idea and ended up computer superstars. Orson Welles was only 25 when he created the film classic Citizen Kane, and director Susan Seidelman was about that age when she made the modern hit movie Desperately Seeking Susan. At the other end of the calendar, you have the world's biggest hamburger chain, McDonald's. Its founder was in his 50s when he hatched the idea of this fast food chain. The original Colonel Sanders was drawing his first Social Security check when he went national with his Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Ronald Reagan became president just days before his 70th birthday.
Our chronological age is not what's important. Our attitude toward life is what counts.
Yet a third form of this disease is one that persists in spite of the current rage for health clubs and vitamins. It's called health excuse-itis. And if you don't believe a lot of people have it, just add up the number of ads and TV commercials you see telling you how to get rid of aches and pains. Now, no one is physically perfect. There's something physically wrong with just about everyone. And because your ailments are not unusual, they are also not very interesting. When you complain about the lower back pain you've developed from sitting at a desk all day, or your shin splints from jogging, or the eye strain the computer terminal gives you, you're simply switching off other people's interest in you and what you have to say. Ask yourself, would you like to be on the receiving end of your physical complaints? Your answer will probably be a resounding no.
Nobody enjoys pain. And when you complain about how bad you feel, you simply become a symbol of pain. As you complain about your pain, you are encouraging other people to leave you.
When you're next tempted to sink into complaining about yourself as a substitute for going out and doing something constructive, remind yourself of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Crippled by polio as a young adult, he went on to become the only president in our nation's history elected to 4 terms in office. Or think of TV star Mary Tyler Moore, who has succeeded at a demanding career despite diabetes. There are plenty of examples closer to home of people overcoming physical problems big and small. Just watch the evening news. But let's say you take aerobics 3 times a week. You're the picture of fitness and you're proud of it. Health is not the thing that's holding you back. In your case, it's luck. Everyone else, it seems, has all the good kind.
Some people just have luck. I mean, I work hard. I know I'm doing the job. I know I'm doing better than a lot of people are doing, but for some reason, one particular person that I work with seems to get all the benefits no matter what without even trying.
I have one friend who's really lucky. It just seems like whenever something's going wrong for both of us, the situation turns around and gets better for her before it gets better for me. I remember about 6 months ago, we both broke up with the guy that we were seeing. And, it only took her like another month to meet someone that she was really interested in and who was really interested in her. It just seems like she gets everything when she wants it, the way she wants it. I mean, it has to be luck. There's no other explanation.
I just never accomplish anything. I'm so busy trying to undo the bad luck that always finds me that I'm running around in circles all day, and by the time I get done with the day, I'm trying to do what I started out doing after I unraveled all the bad things that happened to me. So I'm nowhere.
Luck, you say. But is it really? Or do you have a severe case of luck excusitis? Look closely, and you'll find that the person who is winning the promotions, making friends and cultivating romance, or being sought out for creative ideas, is not succeeding by chance.
Luck has very, very little to do with anything. The people who are successful are those who are working the hardest and doing all they can to make their dreams come true.
Curing excusitis is surprisingly simple. The hard part is recognizing that you have it, that you are using excuse after excuse to get out of trying to get what you really want out of life. Recognize yourself in any of these forms of excusitis? Then do this. Tell yourself over and over again, my attitude is more important than my IQ. And no one is ever too old or too young. Refuse to worry about your health. And more important, refuse to talk about it. And remember, there's no such thing as bad luck, only lost opportunities. Your mind is nothing but a thought factory, and a busy one, manufacturing countless thoughts, good and bad, every day. An amusing but very helpful way to look at your thought factory is to imagine it under the charge of 2 very different foremen. David Schwartz has dubbed them Mr. Triumph and Mr. Defeat.
Mr. Triumph is in charge of manufacturing positive thoughts, and he specializes in producing reasons why you can, why you are qualified, why you will win. The other foreman, Mr. Defeat, produces negative, depreciating thoughts. He's your expert in developing reasons why you can't, why you're weak, why you're inadequate. His specialty is the why you will fail kind of thinking. To see how these foremen work for you, try this example. Tell yourself, today is a lousy day. This signals Mr. Defeat into action, and he manufactures some facts to prove why you are right. He suggests to you that it's too hot or too cold, or business will be lousy, other people will be on edge, you may get sick, your wife or husband will be in a fussy mood. Mr. Defeat is a tremendously efficient servant. In just a few minutes, he's got you sold. It is a bad day. Before you know it, it is a heck of a bad day. But tell yourself today's a fine day, and Mr. Triumph goes to work. He tells you, look, it's a wonderful day. The weather is refreshing. It's good to be alive. Today you can catch up on some of your work, and then it is a good day. The more work you give to either of these 2 foremen, the stronger he becomes. The only wise thing to do is simply fire Mr. Defeat. Mr. Defeat won't help you get you where you want to go, so kick him out. When any thought enters your mind, ask Mr. Triumph to go to work for you. He'll show you how you can succeed.
Every day there is opportunity, a chance to put Mr. Triumph to work. And the desire to turn opportunity into reward is one of the reasons you're listening to this cassette, instead of waiting for the lucky break that may never come. The door to success is wide open, but the first step through it is believing in yourself. Belief can move mountains.
You can't wish away a mountain. You can't wish yourself into an executive suite, nor can you wish yourself into a fine home. But you can win success by believing you can succeed. There is nothing magical or mystical about the power of belief. Belief, the positive I can attitude, generates the power, the skill, and the energy needed to do it. Doubt, the subconscious will to fail, the not really wanting to succeed, is responsible for most failures. Belief in success is the one basic, absolutely essential ingredient in all successful people. Believe, really believe, you can succeed, and you will.
Ah, but you say, believing is one thing, doing is another.
The fact is I've never gone in there. I can't ask for that raise. Every time I think about going into that office, every time I think about it, there's like this incredible sort of mass of marshmallows that stops me. It's like this incredible wall that does not let me just walk on. And there's nothing that I can do to get rid of it.
There's this woman at work who I'd love to call up, but I'm really afraid of not succeeding, and the fear of the rejection is great. The fear of making a fool of myself is great. All this ties my stomach up in knots. So rather than call her up and risk embarrassment at work or risk her saying no and not having any chance, I just won't call her up.
The fact is, many people are paralyzed by fear, and fear is very, very real.
Now, our friends mean well when they tell us, look, it's only your imagination. Don't worry. There's nothing to be afraid of. But there is. You and I know that this kind of fear medicine never works, because fear is real. Fear is success enemy number one. Fear stops people from capitalizing on opportunity. Fear closes your mouth when you want to speak. Fear actually makes people sick. Fear is a powerful force. In one way or another, fear prevents people from getting what they want. Now, the first treatment for fear is to condition yourself to one simple fact. All confidence is acquired or developed. No one is born with confidence. The people you know who radiate confidence have acquired their confidence, every bit of it.
Acquiring confidence is not as hard as you think. Banishing fear and developing confidence actually involves only one thing, getting the action habit. You must simply plunge in and do the thing you fear the most every time.
Action cures fear. Do the thing you fear, and fear will disappear. Afraid to speak up in a classroom? Speak up. Afraid to ask for promotion? Ask for it. You see, one of the truly great success proverbs is simply this. Ask, it shall be given unto you. Knock, and it shall open. Action is what cures fear. The longer we meditate about fear, the longer we postpone doing something we are afraid to do, the more difficult, the more impossible it seems. So do this. Right now, think of one thing you dread most doing, and then do it.
Let's think about some things that you might do to get the action habit in the face of a few common fears. Try them. For example, it's natural to fear getting a bad evaluation when you're new on a job and still being watched. So instead of worrying, do this. Tackle the project or job that is your weak spot. Stay with it until you've mastered it, and even the attempt at doing better will build your confidence. How about the fear of what other people think? There's no one who doesn't worry about looking bad. So do this. Put people in perspective. Remind yourself that other people are not as smart as you might think they are, and you are smarter than you think. Then tell yourself this. No one ever does anything worthwhile for which they're not criticized. Expect to be sniped at by small thinkers, but take it as proof that you are growing, and then go ahead and act. Then there's that fear that sometimes creeps up on us. It's a sense that something is going to go wrong, but you don't know what it is. Now, a good way to counter this vague fear is by putting your mind to work thinking about something you can control. It's a good idea to keep it simple. Sitting down to write the great American novel, or delving inward to come up with the invention that's going to make you rich, will probably only add to your sense of impending doom. Rather than take on a large challenge, start with something basic, close to home. Try tackling that repair job you've been putting off for weeks because it takes too much figuring out. You'll be surprised how fast vague fears disappear when you're concentrating on taking accurate measurements or trying to figure out just how to jiggle that screw in. And doing something for someone else is a sure fear cure. Is your neighborhood school having a fundraiser to buy some new sports equipment? Pitch in, help with the publicity, or organize the raffle. Again, these are all examples of how you can act in the face of fear. But you are unique, so be creative. Tailor your own way of acting to who you are. And make no mistake about it, action does cure fear. Once fear is banished, how do we move on to build confidence? David Schwartz has a simple but very successful 5-step method for increasing your confidence quotient.
First, be a front seater. Have you ever noticed in meetings, in church, in classrooms, in business conferences, in any kind of assembly, how quick the back seats fill up? Most folks scramble to sit in the back rows so they won't look too conspicuous.
And the reason they're afraid to be conspicuous is that they lack confidence. It's as simple as that. Sitting in the back makes you feel smaller, almost invisible. But think about it. Do you really want to feel small? Remember, a first step to thinking big is feeling big. So make it a habit, whenever you enter a room full of people, head straight for the front row. Find the spot where you can see and be seen, and make it your own. When you sit up front, you also build your confidence. Just practice it and see. Now for confidence builder number 2.
Practice making eye contact. Remember, the eyes, in fact, are the mirrors of your soul. How a person uses his eyes tells us a lot about him. Looking the other person in the eye tells that person, I am honest and above board. I believe in what I'm telling you, I'm not afraid, and I'm confident. Eye contact not only gives you confidence, it wins you confidence too. Point 3. Walk 25% faster. Psychologists link slovenly postures and sluggish walking to unpleasant attitudes towards oneself. But psychologists also tell us you can actually change your attitudes by changing posture and speed of movement.
Just watch people walk past any busy corner, and you'll discover that body action is always the result of mind action. The down-and-out person telegraphs that to the world by shuffling along as if there is nowhere to go. The average person has just an average walk, not too fast, not too slow, just trying to get from here to there. But there's a third group, a few individuals who really stand out.
People in this group show superconfidence. They walk faster than the average folks. There seems to be a slight sprint in the way they walk. Their walk tells the world, I've got someplace important to go, and by golly, I've got something important to do.
So do this. Next time you head down the street, even if you're just going to the store for a loaf of bread, walk faster. Hold your head up high. Keep a brisk pace to your stride, and you'll find you feel better about yourself. Walk faster, and you can't help but feel that you are heading for something bigger and better.
Point 4. Practice speaking up. In working with many kinds of groups, I've watched people with keen perception and much native ability freeze and fail to participate in discussions. It isn't that these people don't want to get in and wade with the rest of us. Rather, it's simply lack of confidence. Each time the conference clam fails to speak, he feels even more inadequate, more inferior. Often he makes a faint promise to himself that down deep inside he knows he's not going to keep, to speak out next time. This is very important. Each time our clam fails to speak, he takes one more dose of confidence poison. The only people who get ahead in this world are people who talk.
So don't be a conference clam. Even when you're nervous or feeling a little down, speak up. Speak up at every opportunity, and your confidence will soar. Now for that final step in building your CQ, confidence quotient. It's simple to put into practice, something you can do many times every single day. And that's smile big.
Try this little test. Try for a moment to feel defeated and then smile big at the same time. You can't. A big smile gives you confidence. A big smile beats fear, rolls away worry, and defeats despondency.
So smile. And while you're at it, remember to do these other confidence builders. Be a front-seater. Sit where you can see and be seen. Make eye contact, always. Walk faster. See if you can speed up by at least 25%. And speak up. If you think it, say it. Even if they don't always agree, people will respect you for having your own ideas. Now let's see how you can manage your memory so as to build confidence. David Schwartz suggests you should think of your brain as a bank, and every day you make thought deposits in this mind bank, deposits that grow and become your memory. When you settle down to think, or when you're tackling a problem, in effect you begin to make withdrawals from your memory bank.
Your memory, then, is a basic supplier of raw material for every new thought. Your memory doesn't care what you put into it, but it's infallible. Your memory will recall what you ask it to recall. If you approach the teller and say, "Mr. Teller, let me withdraw some thoughts I deposited in the past, proving I'm inferior to just about everybody else," your teller will say, "Certainly, sir. Recall what your 6th grade teacher told you about your inability to accomplish things, and recall what you overheard some fellow worker say about you." On and on Mr. Teller goes, digging out of your brain thought after thought that proves you are indeed inadequate. But suppose you visit your memory teller with this request. "Mr. Teller, I face a tough decision. Can you supply me with any thoughts which you believe will give me some reassurance?" And again the teller will say, "Well, certainly, sir." But this time he delivers thoughts that say you can succeed. Recall the excellent job you did in a similar situation before, or recall how much confidence Mr. Smith placed in you, recall what your good friend said about you. Mr. Teller, perfectly responsive, lets you withdraw the thought deposits you want to withdraw. After all, it is your bank.
And because it is your bank, you can do something about how it is managed. Now, unpleasant things happen to all of us, and while you can't control what goes into your memory bank, you can decide what to take out. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people is that unsuccessful people overdraw on their negative account. They go to bed worrying about the negative remark, the foul-up at work, the way they were late for an important appointment. Worse, when they wake up, these negative memories are the first thing on their minds. Successful people, those ready to go to work on their big ideas, never give another thought to the petty bad things that happened that day. They simply resolve to do better, and they move on.
Again, I repeat, withdraw only positive thoughts from your memory bank.
You've learned that excusitis is a sure way to keep your thinking small. You have now decided to fire Mr. Defeat and keep Mr. Triumph working overtime. You know how to make your attitudes your allies. It is natural to fear doing any number of things, and most people fear something. But you now have a way to conquer fear by taking action, and you know new ways to develop confidence. It's time to turn the cassette over and discover still more tips and techniques for thinking big. Before we move on, let's take another look at what we now know about thinking big.
There is magic in thinking big, but it's so easy to forget. When you hit some rough spots, there's always danger your thinking will shrink in size. And when it does, you lose. To be sure, there are some people who want you to lose, to experience misfortunes, to be reprimanded. But these people can't hurt you if you remember three things. You win when you refuse to fight petty people. Fighting little people reduces you to their size. Stay big. Expect to be sniped at. It's proof you're growing. When that "I haven't got what it takes" feeling creeps up on you, think big. Remember, if you think you are weak, you are. If you think you are inadequate, you are. Whip that natural tendency to sell yourself short with these tools. Look important. It helps you think important. How you look on the outside has a lot to do with how you feel on the inside. concentrate on your assets. Build a sell-yourself-on-yourself commercial and use it. Know your positive self and put other people in proper perspective. The other person is just another human being. So why be afraid? Think big enough to see how good you really are.
So let's get down to work again. First, in order to think big, you must feel capable of big things. A good way to achieve this feeling is to develop the big thinker's vocabulary. Now, don't confuse this with big talk, the kind of overblown, swaggering style that begins and ends with just that, big talk. No, the big thinker's vocabulary is a way of using words, of expressing yourself in such a way as to motivate both you and others to act, and to act positively. David Schwartz has 4 basic ways to go about developing the big thinker's vocabulary.
1. Use big, positive, cheerful words to describe how you feel. 2. Make it a rule to have a big, positive word for all your friends and associates. 3. Use positive language to encourage others. Compliment people personally at every opportunity. And 4, use positive words to define your plans to others. When people hear something like, "Here's some good news," we face a big opportunity, their minds start to sparkle.
Now, using positive ways to express yourself is only the beginning. The next step is to see things positively, but not positively as in Pollyanna, saying "that's nice" to everything or "I really like that" when you don't really care, will not put you on the path to thinking big. The way to think big, the positive way, is to see things in a new, better light. An empty lot, for example, becomes a new home, or a neighborhood park. In your mind, it's already complete with sandbox and swings. A student, obsessed with getting on the swim team, but seemingly indifferent to things like math and English, in your mind is a doctor or a designer of the future. In things, you see potential. In people, talent waiting to bloom. And that is a characteristic of all big thinkers.
Big thinkers see what can be, not just what is. To think big, train yourself to see what can be.
So do these 3 things. First, practice adding value to things. Ask yourself, what can I do to make this house or this business more valuable? A thing, whether it's a vacant lot or a business, has value in direct proportion to the ideas for using it.
Second, add value to people. As you move higher and higher in the world of success, more and more of your job becomes people development. Ask, what can I do to add value to my subordinates? What can I do to help them become more effective? Remember, to bring out the best in a person, you must first visualize the best. 3, and this is very important, practice adding value to yourself. Conduct a daily interview with yourself and ask, what can I do to make myself more valuable today? Visualize yourself not as you are, but as you can be. When you visualize yourself as you can be, specific ways for attaining your potential will suggest themselves. Just try it and see.
Well, I mean, it's easy for someone like Steven Spielberg to come up with a blockbuster idea for a great movie. But, you know, when people say to me, well, you should do something creative and you should get involved in writing movies or producing things, and I always think, well, I'm not that creative. I can't think of ideas like he can. I mean, you have to be a genius.
Let's clear up a common fallacy about the meaning of creative thinking. For some unknown reason, science, engineering, art, and writing got labeled as about the only truly creative pursuits. Accomplishments like these are evidence of creative thinking. Each step forward in the conquest of space is the result of creative thinking, and lots of it. But creative thinking is not reserved for certain occupations, and certainly it's not restricted to super intelligent people.
Creative thinking is within the reach of all of us, and we can practice our creativity in just about everything we do. For example, a low-income family devises a plan to send their child to a leading university. That's creative thinking. A neighborhood group gets the city to donate young trees in exchange for planting and tending the trees as they grow. That's creative thinking. A minister figures out that if he offers child care for infants, he can double his Sunday evening attendance. It works, and that's creative thinking. The head of a community clinic figures out that by offering blood pressure tests at the local mall, the clinic can reach lots more people. That, too, is creative thinking. The rewards of all types of success, whether at work or at home or even in a relationship, hinge on finding ways to make it better. So let's see how we can develop ways to improve our creative thinking. The first step is one you're familiar with by now: believe it can be done. David Schwartz says that he often asks a group of management trainees a question to illustrate this point. What can we do to eliminate jails within 30 years? Invariably, he says, the group of trainees looks bewildered. They look like they aren't quite sure of what he said, or they can't believe their ears. Then they begin viewing David Schwartz as if he's lost his marbles. So he repeats the question: what can we do to eliminate jails?
Now, once assured, I'm not joking. Someone always blasts me with something like, you mean to say you want to turn all those murderers and thieves and rapists loose, or we have to have jails. Then, of course, the others cut loose, too. All order would break down if we didn't have jails. Some people are born criminals. If anything, we've got to have more jails. Okay, after about 10 minutes of letting the group prove to me why we can't possibly eliminate the need for jails, I say to the group, look, I'm just trying to make a point. Each of you has come up with reasons why we can't eliminate the need for jails. Now, do me a favor. Will you try extra hard for a few minutes to believe we can eliminate jails?
After trying this dozens of times, David Schwartz has discovered that when his audience is forced to think of creative solutions, they do. Suggestions come slowly at first, but soon the very people who 10 minutes before thought a positive solution was out of the question are coming up with all kinds of ideas.
Work to eliminate poverty. Most crime stems from low-income levels. Conduct research to spot potential criminals before they commit a crime. Develop surgical procedures to cure some kinds of criminals. Or educate law enforcement personnel in positive methods of reform. You see, belief releases creative power. Disbelief, on the other hand, puts the brakes on.
Here are a couple of general suggestions for how you can develop your powers of creativity through belief. Listen carefully.
First, and this is very important, eliminate the word impossible from your thinking and speaking vocabularies. Impossible is a failure word. Second, think of something special you've been wanting to do but felt you couldn't. Now, make a list of reasons why you can do it. Many of us whip and defeat our desires simply because we concentrate on why we can't, when the only thing worthy of our mental concentration is why we can.
Here's an example of just this kind of can't-do thinking. A reporter for a national newspaper recently wrote an article based on her original research into county boundaries throughout the U.S. What this reporter discovered was that there were too many separate counties. She pointed out that the original boundaries were established while we still traveled by horse and buggy. Now, however, with fast cars and good highways, distances between places had effectively shrunk, and so 3 or 4 counties could easily be combined under one county government. This would in turn cut down dramatically on duplicated services, and all of us as taxpayers would benefit. The writer of this article thought she had stumbled across a really great idea, so she interviewed 30 people at random to get their reactions. The result? Not a single person this reporter interviewed thought the idea had any merit, even though it would actually provide them with better government at less cost. Now that is an example of traditional thinking.
The traditional thinker's mind is paralyzed. He reasons, it's been done this way for 100 years, therefore it must be good and must stay this way. In truth, there is no one best way to do anything. There is no one best way to decorate an apartment, or landscape a lawn, or make a sale, or rear a child, or cook a steak, for that matter. There are as many best ways as there are creative minds. If we let tradition freeze our minds, new ideas can't sprout. Nothing grows in ice.
Try this test sometime soon. Watch how your friends and co-workers react when you propose one of these controversial ideas. Suggest a video therapy service, kind of like video dating, only here the psychologist is on video and potential clients can watch that therapist in action with a patient. Or all 18-year-old men and women must spend 1 full year in civilian service to the country. Or that cars be completely banned from the midtown streets of all major cities. Or how about every working person has to change careers completely every 5 years? Make up your own ideas. The more outrageous, the better. The thing is, whether these ideas are practical does not matter in the least. What is important is how people react. David Schwartz points out that 9 out of 10 will laugh at your suggestions and never give them another thought. These people suffer from the paralysis of traditional thinking. But 1 out of every 10 people, or maybe 1 out of every 20, will look interested and say, "You know, that's an intriguing idea. Weird, but definitely intriguing." Now that person has a mind that's turned toward creativity. In order to rid yourself of the habit of traditional thinking, start by making yourself receptive to new ideas.
Welcome new ideas. Destroy those thought repellents like it won't work, or it can't be done, or it's useless, or it's pointless, or it's stupid. Just destroy them. A successful friend of mine who holds a major job with an insurance company said to me, "You know, I don't pretend to be the smartest guy in this business, but I think I am the best sponge in the insurance industry. I make it a point to soak up all the good ideas I can." Be an experimental person. Break up those fixed routines. Expose yourself to new restaurants, new books, new theaters, new friends. Take a different route to work someday. Do something new and different this weekend. If your work is in distribution, develop an interest in production, accounting, finance, or some other element of the business. This gives you breadth and prepares you for bigger responsibilities. Be progressive, not regressive.
Don't think, "That's how we did it on my old job," but rather, "How can I do it better now?" As you begin to shake off your old patterns of doing things and to start thinking bigger, it's time to learn to listen. Really listen. That's because the inspiration for new ideas is all around you, and listening carefully to what other people have to say is a way of harvesting these ideas.
In hundreds of interviews with people at all levels, I've made this discovery. The bigger the person, the more apt he or she is to encourage you to talk. On the other hand, the smaller the person, the more apt that person is going to preach to you. Top leaders in all walks of life spend much more time requesting advice than they do in giving it.
Look at it this way. A leader is a decision-making machine, and to manufacture anything, you've got to have raw material. In reaching creative decisions, the raw materials are the ideas and suggestions of other people.
Now, don't, of course, expect other people to give you ready-made solutions. That's not the primary reason for asking and listening. Ideas of others help to spark your own ideas so your mind becomes much more creative.
Here's one way that can work. Recently, David Schwartz instructed a group of managers at an executive seminar. Each meeting was designed to put the spotlight on one executive, who would spend 15 minutes on the topic, "How I Solved My Most Pressing Management Problem."
At the final session, a vice president of a milk processing company did something different. Instead of telling people how he solved his problem, he announced his topic as "Needed Help in Solving My Most Pressing Management Problem." He quickly outlined the problem and then asked the group for ideas on how to solve it. Later, I talked to this man and I complimented him on his unique approach. His comment was, he said, "There are some very sharp people in this group. There's a good possibility something someone said may give me the clue I need to solve my problem." Note this. This executive presented his problem, then he listened.
In doing so, not only did this man get some raw material for his decision-making, but as a side benefit, the other executives in the audience enjoyed the discussion. So listening can bring rewards, not the least of which is creating fertile ground for new ideas. Now that you've learned how to draw inspiration from others, here are some tips on how to make those ideas bear fruit. Keep in mind that ideas, especially when they are just seeds of ideas, are very fragile.
Don't let your ideas escape. Write them down. Carry a notebook or some small cards with you. People with fertile creative minds know that a good idea may sprout any time, any place. Remember, memory is a weak slave when it comes to preserving and nurturing brand new ideas. File these ideas in an active file. A shoebox will do. But build a file and then examine your storehouse of ideas regularly. As you go over your ideas, some may, for various reasons, have no value at all. So you get rid of them. But so long as the idea has any promise, keep it. Finally, cultivate and fertilize your idea. Think about it. Investigate every angle. Then, too, remember, ideas have to be sold to someone. Customers, employees, the boss, friends, investors. Somebody must buy your idea.
Now that you've learned how important it is to capture and develop your new ideas, what do you plan to do with them? For your ideas to go anywhere, you must have goals.
Think of it. Every bit of human progress, our inventions, big and little, our medical discoveries, our engineering triumphs, were first visualized before they became realities. Space stations circle the Earth because scientists set conquer space as a goal. A goal is an objective, a purpose. A goal is more than a dream. It's a dream being acted upon. The important thing is not where you were or where you are, but rather where you want to go.
Corporations set goals. Can you imagine what would happen to IBM or General Motors if they didn't set long-term goals? And executives set personal timetables for themselves, where they want to be in 5 and 10 years. Take a tip from those who know how to turn goals into reality by acting today. Create your own plan. First, a short-term plan. 30 days is a good length. Then create a long-term plan. Where do you want to be in 5 years? Your plan should cover the things that are important to you, whether it's your job, your family, or your position in the community. Ideally, your plan should involve various aspects of your life. When it comes to shaping your goals, remember one thing. Put no limits on your goals. You may not be able to achieve every goal you set for yourself, but the higher you aim, the higher you go. And for those who say, well, you don't belong in the executive suite, or you'd never make it through medical school, or who ever heard of sailing the world alone?
In answer to that, one top space expert, Dr. Wernher von Braun, once said, "Man belongs where man wants to go."
But what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? That $60,000 piece of equipment may not increase our profits at all. It may be our downfall.
I just got laid off from my job, and I don't know what to do. I mean, I started looking in the newspapers, but I'm overwhelmed by it all.
Thinking big is a great personal philosophy, but you may wonder what to do when you've simply failed. David Schwartz says you have to keep reminding yourself that setbacks are a part of life. You can't avoid them. And in a way, the more you do, the more you're likely to fail.
It's not possible to achieve large success without hardships and setbacks. But it is possible to live the rest of your life without defeat. Big thinkers react to setbacks this way.
Big thinkers learn from their defeats. Doctors, for example, use setbacks as a way to learn more about both the patient and the disease. If a patient doesn't respond to treatment, they try something else. A good sales executive devotes several hours every month to figuring out what went wrong with an important sale that fell through. You've heard of Monday morning quarterbacks. Well, that's really what a good coach does. He watches a videotape of every game to spot the team's weakness, and if they lost, to figure out how to win next time. And commodities brokers wouldn't be in that high-pressure business very long if they couldn't handle losing tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes in minutes. The thing that distinguishes the person who thinks big, who sees the big picture, is that that person can take defeat and move on. Whether it's on the job or in your social life, don't let defeat get you down. Don't dwell on it, but do take a hard look at what went wrong. Here's a set of guidelines guaranteed to help you get through your next setback.
First, study every setback to pave your way to greater success. When you lose, decide to learn and go on to win the next time. Second, seek out your limitations and weaknesses and then take any action needed to correct them. 3, stop blaming luck. 4, blend persistence with experimentation. Stay with your goal, but try new approaches. Experiment. Finally, there truly is a good side in every situation. See the good side, and you'll defeat discouragement.
To sum up, defeat can be transformed into something valuable if you just respond to it positively.
Regard the setback as a lesson. Learn from it. Research it. Salvage something from every setback. Use it to propel you forward. Blend persistence with experimentation. Back off and start afresh. Try a new approach. Think big enough to see that defeat is a state of mind, nothing more.
The state of mind you want to create is a positive one, a mind wide open to new ideas and big plans. Over the past hour, you've learned many ways to develop the kind of thinking that will make you a big thinker. You now know how critical it is to set goals and to act on them. Action takes you where you want to go, and it destroys your fear of doing something at the same time. You've learned that your memory is at your service, and withdrawing positive thoughts that promote a can-do attitude is the best way to use it. And you will begin today to cure yourself of all forms of excusitis. Above all, conjuring for yourself the magic of thinking big means believing you can.
Think, I can do better. The best is attainable. Nothing in this world is being done as well as it can be. Thinking I can do better switches on your creative power. Think big and you'll live big. You'll live big in happiness, accomplishment, income, friends, and respect. Start now, right now, to discover how to make your thinking make magic for you. Start with this thought of the great philosopher Disraeli. Life is too short to be little.
This has been another in a series of Sound Ideas by Simon & Schuster.